Hello friends, and welcome to in-depth tutorial on Mount&Blade Warband. This tutorial will be focusing mostly on a single player game, well, pretty much exclusively on single player game. Now, the most important thing in the beginning is to set your difficulty options right. As you can see, I've set mine on the maximum, except for campaign AI, which is on average. Because I'm good, the game becomes very grindy for my taste, because lords respawn very fast, but we will talk about that a bit later. You can, of course, play on any difficulty you want, but I recommend as high as you can, because otherwise, why would you need advice? But it's up to you. Now, the most important thing in this game is, of course, the melee combat. And the best way to practice the intricacies of melee combat is, of course, in the tutorial area, which is accessed very fast, and you can practice anytime you want. You should fight with this guy, veteran fighter. If you can beat him in sparring match consistently, you pretty much have no one to fear. In single player game on native, on one-on-one. The most basic thing here is to get the directional attacks down. You don't just spam the attack button, attack from the direction that you want to attack. In this, the arrows that you see now on my screen can help you achieve that. You can toggle them in the options menu just under the difficulty settings. Now, the other thing that you might want to practice with this in this area is blocking, manual blocking, which means you block with your mouse, as you can see here. It's not that hard once you get down the technique. You need to watch very carefully your opponent, and you just see from the animations at which side they're going to attack, and you block that side. Now, the attacks in this game are not the single action, they're actually the two actions in one. The one action is chambering, as you see here, when you prepare the attack, and the other is releasing attack. From that arises the other technique, which is chamber blocking. It's when you parry the attack by attacking in the same direction as your opponent. You see, you just knock his weapon and hit him yourself. It's a very good technique if you can master it, but of course it's a bit harder than just blocking. Anyways, tutorial area is a good place to get familiar with this game's combat mechanics. Use it. Now let's start a new game and create a new character. It doesn't really matter in the long run what you select in the character generation screens, but still, I want to create a fighter type character, so I'll go just with the use your common sense and go with the selections that makes the most sense. Like, if you want to create a warrior, go with warrior. If you want to create a archer, go with steppe, nomad, or hunter. I go with the thief because I want extra agility and to get a bit of bow proficiencies and throwing proficiencies. Then just select whatever you think is appropriate for your character. Now, when it comes to skills, you want to focus on personal skills and leader skills. Leave party skills to your companions. At least I find it the easiest way to play this game, because I tend to go into fights a lot. So maybe if you play a more leader type character, maybe you can go with party skills, but I don't really recommend it. Use companions for that. Now, since I'm making a fighter, I selected power strike and then riding, and of course I put my attribute points into strength and agility. Agility is actually very important, even if you use just melee weapons, because you swing faster, and I find that to be even more important than the strength to hit harder. And I also select the prisoner management for prisoners, for taking prisoners, and a shield. I like to put my weapon points into proficiencies that are the lowest, because that way I won't get screwed by getting a random weapon in tournaments or arenas. Also, I save up on skill points because I don't need to increase weapon masters as often, and it gives me a flexibility to choose any weapon I like later in the game. And you don't need to increase the proficiencies for weapons that you are using a lot, because they will increase on their own. I feel that's the best way to spend your weapon proficiencies. Now you can start in any city you want. I just advise against Tulga, starting in Tulga and Khergit Khanate if you're a beginner. Otherwise, choose whatever you want. I chose the Shariz and Serenit Sultanate. Now, I also made another character, a male horse archer trader type. Again, I chose options at the character creation screens that made sense for this type of character. If you don't have a common sense, I'll have a link in the description box for you. Anyways, again, I concentrated mostly on the combat skills at first, personal combat skills. Put up the power draw for bows, and as you can see, this character starts with a lot lower strength and weapon proficiencies and general combat skills. Instead, she has a pathfinding and trading skills that I'm going to use a lot. Basically, I'm trying to create two different characters to show you two different ways of starting the game and how you can get money and the like. And now let's go back to the warrior guy, and I started in Shariz, and I'm waiting for a bandit here. I got throwing knives, which are not that good, but whatever. Now he bumped into me, if you saw that. I was prepared to throw a knife into him, and he bumped into me, disrupting my throwing animation. You can do that also for bows and I think crossbows too. AI actually does that a lot. If you are trying to shoot him. Now, always do the starting quest, because it's a bit of money and experience you can get from it. Now you see we started in the Serenit Sultanate, Shariz, near Shariz. I got crappy gear, but that's what you get when you start with this type of character. I put my crossbow and throwing weapons. I don't know what I'm doing here. I guess I'm just fumbling. We get lucky because there's a tournament in this city, and I always visit a tavern in cities, because it's just a habit that I've got for checking for the new companions and the like. You always should do that, at least in the beginning of the game. Now I looked at the market, I don't have any money, so I decided to go to the arena. Now this character is built for combat, so he's good in combat from the start. I got polearm, which is not that good for me, but still better than the bow, I guess. As you see, you cannot let them hit you once on full damage settings, because you go down very easily. You might be able to take 3 hits maximum from one-handed weapon, but no more. And here I blocked the wrong direction. Now remember, when I created this character, he has 4 in power strike and 12 in strength. So with a two-handed weapon, he can easily one-hit people in arena. And I developed a technique, which is, I think, a natural technique of sidestepping and hitting from the right direction. Here I'm strafing from arrows. Now see, I sidestep slightly to the right and then turn into my strike to the left. And I do this with pretty much every fighter in the arena. They are AI bots, so you don't really need to be aware of their intelligence or anything like that. They could figure out your movements. Don't use this trick if you play in multiplayer, because people easily figure out what you're doing. But against AI it works very well. Just sidestep and turn. Avoiding their first strike. The thrusting attacks are the trickiest to avoid, because they have a longer reach. But with a little practice you can do this very easily. But you need at least 3 power strike to be able to consistently one-hit people in the arena. You could do the same sidestepping and swinging for the left side too, from the left side. I do it from the right because I'm right-handed and it just feels more natural to me. Now, it might be some time till you get the timing right for avoiding the first strike, but it's not that hard. But you still need to be very careful, because champion fighters or veteran fighters can kill you in one hit with two-handed sword, but so can you on the other hand. As you see here, now I'm standing in the place where archers spawn. There's usually one place in the arena where archers spawn. When there are only 15 or 10 opponents left, you should find this place and stand in there, because when there's so little opponents left, they start spanning very fast and you can get overwhelmed if you stay in the middle of the arena. I just let them fight it out and deal with the survivors. I found that if you stand in the place where archers spawn, they usually don't give you much attention until they kill each other. Well, everything happens. Sometimes they do gang up on you, but you cannot avoid that. So now just kill off the last one, and that's it. We won the arena. You don't get too much money from it, but the experience is good, so we leveled up. And I'm going to spend my skill points. As usual, I'm concentrating on fighting skills first. I put it in the power throw because I plan to use throwing weapons instead of bows or crossbows. Usually I use bow or crossbow, but this time I wanted to go with throwing weapons just because I wanted something different. I usually do the arena for the first 3-4 levels, usually 3, just to get a bit money and experience. Now I got the polearm again, and you cannot one hit with polearm because it has slower damage output, but when you hit someone with two-handed weapon, be it a sword or a staff, you usually stagger opponent, so you can follow up with the next strike and finish him off. So I rely heavily on the stagger here, but it's not that reliable as a two-handed sword because sometimes they don't stagger. They usually do with this character because he has a high strength and power strike. But if you play with a weaker character, you cannot rely on staggers too much, as I found out. This time I got a bow. What you want to do in this case is stay in the approximately the same place and shoot whoever is running towards you. Shoot the guys with the shield in legs, and everybody else try to hit in the head. Of course, this character had little bow skills, so he got taken out really quickly. Anyway, let's take a look at the other character, my female trader. Archer. I decided to start in Raven because it's pretty much the central location, because I want to start trading as soon as I can. It's the first fight in which I do actually a lot better than with the warrior guy, and the usual first quest, which I always do, and as I said, I always recommend you do too. And because I selected a merchant background, I got some really nice stuff, trade goods, and even a spare horse, which will be very useful if I get any companions. So let's go to the city, and the first thing, visit tavern, of course. Now here I think I see a companion and a drunk that dance like that. Drunks are very annoying, but I didn't lose any money, so the main annoyance of course is that I lost all my health and I have just a sliver of it left. Anyway, let's recruit our first companion, Ferentis. He joins for nothing, and sell all our trade goods for quite a bit of money, actually. Leave the food, of course, and let's try the tournament, and let's try the arena. Now, if you can remember, this character has no points in power strike, so she cannot one-hit people even with a two-handed sword, and she's also slower than the warrior guy, which confuses me a bit, and I just do badly in this, as you can see. I spent some time with both characters in the arena until they got a few levels, mostly failing with the trader girl, mostly succeeding with this warrior guy, and you see I'm leveling him up again to level 3, and I took a shield, a skill point and a shield, and 1 strength, and now I'm going to do the quest and encounter a group of looters on the way. And you should always attack looters in the beginning, even if you're alone, especially if you have a ranged weapon like a crossbow that I have right now. It's really easy to shoot looters with some sort of ranged weapon. Just ride around them, evade their stones. They're not hit too hard with stones, of course, but still, you don't want to get a stone in the face on the full difficulty settings. Just repeat the same pattern, like riding around them, herding them in the one crowd and shooting. It's really very easy because they cannot do anything, just shout at you, basically. You can take on any crowd of looters that way. Even if you run out of arrows or bolts or throwing weapons, you still can take them on with just a sword. You just need to be a little bit more careful. Now I'm just mopping up. Really easy. And that's it. All 11 killed. Change the gear to a better one, if you have any. I take all the loot in the beginning because it's free money, why not? The loot is ordered from the most expensive one to the least expensive in the bottom. So even if you don't want to take all the loot, just take the top ones. I usually set some prices at which I will take a loot. Like, let's say in the beginning I take everything that's worth more than 20 dinars or something like that. Now I encounter some deserters. I don't want to risk taking them on, but I will take looters any day. Now I have some recruits, and you see I told them to hang back. You can do that with the F1 button by default, and just do the same thing again. Attract attention to myself so that I will leave my recruits alone and just again ride around them and shoot them. Nothing can be easier, really. You don't want to send even your recruits against looters because they die very easily. And again, I encounter even more looters on my way, which I don't mind because they're a good source of income and experience in the early game, in the start of the game. Now you see when the battle starts, your troops start automatically charging, so I usually find it a good idea to tell them to hold position somewhere or follow you, just to have some sort of control over them, because I don't like to let them just charge in even when I have elite troops. But it's up to you. So we do the same thing again, ride around and shoot at the group. I let some of them escape and they kill one of my recruits, which is not that bad. I just had 2. So, and we mop up, and the usual taking of prisoners and loot. I took just the most expensive loot from that bunch, and we leveled up again. And I forgot to level up last time, so I have to spend 2 attribute points and 2 skill points, and I put 2 into strength to get it to 15, and I can take power strike. As you can see, I took power draw. I took it mainly because of tournaments. 1 in power draw actually makes big difference. When you get a bow in the tournament, we recruit some troops, and then I go back to the town and sell my prisoners, and I found a companion, which is the same companion as with my other character, Ferentis. We take him in and we continue the quest, the starting quest. When you recruit your companions, at first they're quite weak, but when they accumulate enough experience, they will become the best fighters in your army, better than any elite troops. So especially if you concentrate on their fighting skills. As you can see, Ferentis doesn't have any party skills except for trainer, which is always nice. So these kinds of characters I usually specialize as general knight types. I give them a polearm, one-handed sword, throwing weapon, and a shield. I could give them crossbow, but it takes 2 spaces, and then I need to sacrifice either one-handed weapon or polearm, and I like my companions having polearm on a horse. If you don't mind micromanaging, you can give them crossbows when you siege a castle or something. I just dump throwing weapons and that's it. Now I sell all my loot and continue with the quest of hunting down a band of robbers, which just proceeds the same way as all the fights with looters. I just tell all my troops to hold ground and run circles around enemies. That's basically it. Again, after the fight, equipping my companion with better loot. Lately I've been playing a lot of mods, and they pretty much all of them have some kind of auto loot system where you don't need to micromanage your companion gear so much. So I forgot how much tedium there is in native. Anyway, we try to go to tournament, and there's just maybe 1 strong component, Xerina. There's no lords, so that's good. And in the first rounds of the tournament and arenas, actually, it's the main thing is not to get bogged down by your opponents. It's easier to avoid them if you have a horse, but if you start on foot, you can get ganged up, and it's not fun. Anyway, we get two-handed sword, which is okay. I'm pretty good with two-handed swords. They have a lot long reach, and they're pretty decent and on speed. You see, he blocked me, so I used the bump and slash. If someone is on foot and he's blocking you, you can use this technique to knock them out. You just ride with the horse on him and then slash with your sword when he gets staggered by horse. It's very useful. It's useful in the arenas and also in on the battlefield. Anyway, we are past the first round, always betting the maximum amount, of course, and I get a throwing weapon, which is not that bad because I was increasing my throwing proficiencies. I just don't have, I think I have just 1 point in power throw, so throwing weapons don't do as much damage as I would like, but they're still fine, and I do quite alright because nobody is giving me any attention, which is always nice. And we're in the third tier, and I get a lance. Now I'm using hardest settings, manual lance. There are 3 lance settings in this game. The first one is automatic easy, and that means that you don't need to do anything, just let your horse get up to speed and your lance automatically crouches, and it stays that way. The other one is automatic hard, I think, where lance automatically couches too, but it stays couched for limited time. And if you're using manual couching, you need to press the toggle weapon mode button, which by default should be, I think, slash. I have it changed to Q on my keyboard, and it stays couched for a limited time. If you have seen when the couch time ends, there's a red dot near the lance icon on the lower right of the screen, and you need to wait for that red dot to disappear until you can couch again. It's not always the best idea to couch. Sometimes you want to use thrust attacks because they have a longer reach, and I feel they're a bit faster. Well, not faster, but somehow I can aim it more accurately and time it better. I don't know why, maybe it's just me. And that's the other round, when we get a two-handed sword again. And I was having some difficulty with this opponent. I think it's Sword Sister. She kept on blocking me. I tried to use even bump and slash, but she kept on sidestepping. But it all ended well. And so I've reached the final, in which I will meet a hired blade. I think Serena didn't make it to the final. I get Lance, and he got throwing weapons, which makes me a bit nervous because I had a couple of times when I just got obliterated by throwing weapons. As you see, I'm approaching him from the right side because you cannot turn to the right side when you have throwing weapons or bows, and I knock him out and I win a bit more than 4,000 dinars, and I get to shopping. I take a lance because I'm planning on using it from now on, and later I will replace crossbow with shield and a throwing weapon. At least that's my plan. And I'm going to raid the bandit hideout now for the starting quest. I usually tell all my followers to follow me when I'm in the bandit lair, unless they're really powerful, like elite soldiers or companions that have a lot of experience. Then I might let them go on their own, because you're stronger in one group. So when I have weaker soldiers, I can concentrate our attack in just one group of bandits. And I'm still using crossbow, which has long reloading time. I don't like crossbows for that reason. And we finish this part of the quest. Get some loot and some upgrades for myself, namely boots and a helm, if you can call it that, a ragged turban. I take the loot and I go back to the city to finish up the quest. To finish the last part of the quest, we need to fight some bandits inside the city, help clean up the city streets, I guess. And I think I messed up here. Yeah, he chamber blocked me, so yeah, I'm a pro. It doesn't really matter. If you succeed this part of quest, you get 100 more dinars. Like you see, I got 100 dinars. If I succeeded that part of quest, I would have gotten 200. So that's done with the starting quest. I go to marketplace and sell all my loot and take a shield. And I also noticed that I leveled up. I get the agility point and a riding skill. You don't need to get any more than riding 4, which lets you access the best horses. And that's it for the starting for this for this character. Now we take a brief look at my other character. I did all the same quest with her. I just won't show it because it was basically the same thing. I just encountered less looters than with my other character, so I got less money. And that's it for this part of video. I hope you found it useful, and see you later.